Georgia icon Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has not made up her mind on whether she'll run for Senate in 2026, but she did express interest in the vice presidency in an interview Wednesday with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I haven't made up my mind whether I will do that or not. I have a lot of things to think about, she said. Am I going to be a part of President Trump's cabinet if he wins? Is it possible that I'll be VP? Greene, a bombastic congresswoman who has vehemently defended Trump since before she was elected in 2020, said she would be honored to share a ticket with the former president and would consider it very, very heavily. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is also rumored to be interested in 2026 Senate run. Kemp and Greene are rivals, sparking speculation that she may challenge him in a primary. Kemp did not support Trump's attempts to shed doubt on the result of the 2020 election in the state, which are now part of a criminal case against the former president. That lack of support raised criticism from Greene. His message, let me do the voice. His message should have been against this, not arguing with President Trump about the election and just making it about his own ego and pride over Georgia's election, Greene said. That's a bad statement, and I was very upset over it. A 2026 GOP Senate bid would likely be against incumbent Senator Jon Ossoff should he choose to run for re-election. Trump has not named any possible running mates if he were to win the 2024 GOP presidential nomination. He is currently the faraway frontrunner for the nomination with about 53% support according to national polling averages. Greene is one of the most divisive members of the Congress, making few, if any, attempts to work with Democrats in the House. She once called Democrats predators and previously shared anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about, I don't even want to read that. She was stripped of her committee assignments in the last Congress after she made comments in support of the QAnon conspiracy theory and advocated for political violence. This year, she has become an ally of Speaker Kevin McCarthy and moved away from the far-right Freedom Caucus, of which she was previously a vocal member. The caucus voted to remove her from its membership last month after she publicly sparred with Representative Lauren Boebert, another caucus member. So what are Greene's chances of being Trump's running mate? Well, if Trump were smart, or at least smart as I thought he was back in 2016, zero. You look at someone like Pence, and whether you liked him or not, and I certainly did not, he was a person who made a lot of sense for what Trump was in that election year. He was a person who had experience. He was kind of like mild-mannered. He was this regular, standard, just off the assembly line politician, and he really contrasted well with Trump. And I think a lot of winning presidential tickets have someone like that. You look at Obama and Biden. You had this one-term senator, right? People are a little bit worried about his experience. They like his style and some of the things he says, but there is still like a concern, especially when he's running against someone like McCain, who's been a senator for over 20 years. So guess what? He gets someone who's been in the Senate for over 30 years, who many people, even those that didn't agree with him personally, would say, yeah, that I'm pretty convinced that person would be up for being president after they've been in office for so long. So my point I'm making here is, because Greene is someone who neither is very politically experienced, he's only had 2 terms in the House, which are very short, and really does not, in my opinion, bring any type of calming demeanor, like, hey, this is more of the like soft-spoken type person compared with the bombastic Trump. I think she would not contrast very well, and I don't think she could get any swing voters to be reassured that there was like a normalcy to this ticket or anything like that. I think she would do either more harm than good, or she would basically be the equivalent of what Biden did in 2020, where he was basically saddled with having to pick a woman as his running mate. He picked Harris, who brought him no votes, and because people were sick of Trump, it worked anyway, but she really didn't actually help his ticket whatsoever. But again, I think if he were smart, he would just stay away from her. Maybe he could put her in the cabinet, right? But I would stay away from her for the VP spot if I were trying to actually win. In fact, if he really wants a woman, right, just to like have the opposite of what Biden has, I probably would say his best options would either be Ernst, the junior senator from Iowa, or probably Noam from South Dakota, who already is like kissing his boots and probably in the running for that spot, but I digress. I mean, heck, even Haley would make more sense, even though I don't think he would pick her for the simple fact that she's running against him. She says she hasn't made up her mind whether I will do that or not. I feel like Greene has some idea of the fact that her being on that ticket is not going to help it whatsoever. In fact, it possibly could hurt it, and it's really a lose-lose scenario for everybody involved. Independent voters are going to stay away from it because they don't want the crazy ex-president and the even crazier congresswoman possibly right being in control for the next 4 years. And if it loses, well, Trump is again out of a job and is going to have to just deal with his criminal charges for the foreseeable future. And Greene is going to lose her House seats and I guess go back to working out at her gym. I don't know. So really, for everyone involved, her being picked as the running mate basically sets it up to where there's like no good that comes out of it. Like if Trump were to win with her as the VP, it'll be more so the fault of Democrats for not being as strong as they could have in terms of the campaign they ran. Because Trump already has the GOP vote sealed up. I mean, we just did the story where it's like 70% of the Republican voters have a favorable opinion of him. So either way, he's going to get most Republicans to support him across the various states that they're in. So Greene really, she's kind of just there. She doesn't really add anything. And I think in many cases she detracts. If I were her, I would stay in the House for the foreseeable future, maybe try to run for Senate. But again, that mostly depends on if, I don't know, Georgia just, I used to really consider it this solid red state. But between the two Democrats they have as senators now, and the fact that Kemp really didn't win by that big a margin against Abrams either time, I'm kind of becoming convinced that, like, if she were to have ran for Senate in, let's say, 2014, right, when the Democrats got blown out in that midterm, I would say she'd have an excellent chance of winning a general election. But I could see her maybe winning a primary against Kemp, if not only because of her associations with Trump, because a lot of Republican voters would be like, you didn't help him overturn the election, to Kemp, even though he's probably no worse than she is. And then after that, it'll be a toss-up between her and Ossoff, which I think could go either way. So yeah, I just think she's really would be committing career suicide if she were to be on Trump's ticket. In fact, actually, I would say, yeah, there's almost nothing she brings. I guess you could claim, okay, well, Trump's getting kind of older, whatever, and she's young, right? Like there's an age balance there, but they have the same positions on everything. Again, she's like the biggest fundraiser in the House. I don't see what. And look, I'm going to just say this. She's not perceived as being some very smart person. Like back in 2008, there were calls for McCain to pick Rice as his running mate, the Secretary of State at the time under Bush. And whether you agreed with Rice or not, she was considered intelligent. She was the first African-American woman ever to be Secretary of State. And even the Democrats, who were the opposing party, could barely find votes to get around confirming her. So she was someone who appeared much more accomplished, much more intelligent, even though she had never held office before. A public office, rather. So I just think there are intelligent women, right, on the Republican side, but I just think that Greene is the wrong one to pick. I think in any category she's going to hurt him, and you know, if they want to do it, like I said, I'm no fan of any of these people, so go ahead. But I'm just, this is my honest analysis. I'm not trying to trick anyone or make it feel like, oh yeah, please pick her and then you'll be able to help President Trump. No, I don't think so. I think it'll be a mistake. But if he wants to do that, well, we'll see.